Welcome to Spoken Library, where we explore the enduring questions of meaning and existence. Today, we turn to C.S. Lewis's seminal work, Mere Christianity, to dissect the foundational concept that underpins all morality, the law of human nature. Lewis argues that before we discuss theology, we must first establish a simple, verifiable fact about humanity. All people, everywhere, possess an inherent sense of right and wrong. We call this the law of human nature, or the moral law. It is the unspoken code that every person expects others to follow, even if they fail to follow it themselves. This law is what makes us say, "That's unfair," or "You promised." It is a universal, instinctive reaction that proves there is a real, shared standard of behavior we did not invent. Our summary will explore three essential steps in Lewis's argument: the fact of the law, the two puzzles of the law, and the inference of the law. Let us begin by acknowledging what we already know to be true. Lewis begins not by making a religious claim, but by observing human behavior and conversation. 1. The reality of moral quarrels. The first piece of evidence for the moral law is the presence of quarreling. When people argue, they rarely say, "I dislike what you are doing." They almost always say, "You shouldn't do that," or "That is unjust." This reliance on an objective standard shows that both the accuser and the accused appeal to a shared reference point, a standard that both parties assume they ought to know and obey. If morality were simply a matter of taste, like preferring tea to coffee, arguments would be impossible and pointless. But we argue about morality intensely because we recognize its objective nature. Number 2, the distinction between instinct and law. Lewis clarifies that the moral law is not merely an instinct. An instinct is a strong drive, like the maternal instinct to protect a child, or the herd instinct to help others. The moral law is the thing that tells you to suppress one instinct, e.g., self-preservation, in favor of a higher one, e.g., saving a drowning man. It is the director of the instincts, the musician choosing which instrument to play. The moral choice is often the opposite of the strongest natural instinct. The takeaway? The moral law is not what people do, because we constantly break it, but what they know they ought to do. It is a real, universal pressure compelling us to act a certain way. Once we accept the existence of this universal moral law, we are immediately faced with two critical puzzles that science cannot answer. Number 3, Puzzle 1. We didn't invent it. The moral law is not a human invention, custom, or social convention, because it is essentially the same across all major civilizations and historical eras. While customs change, example, marriage rights, the core principles, protecting the innocent, honoring promises, and mutual aid, do not. If it were a human invention, we would be free to discard it, much like traffic laws. Yet, we know that betraying a friend is wrong, regardless of the time or place. It feels like an external law imposed on us, akin to the law of gravity. But unlike gravity, we can choose to disobey it. This suggests the law originates from outside ourselves. Number 4, Puzzle 2. We can't perfectly keep it. The second, deeper puzzle is our consistent failure to live up to this standard. We can readily explain why we fail. We are selfish, fearful, and easily distracted, but this failure is the defining element of the human condition. We have perfect knowledge of the moral law, yet imperfect obedience to it. Lewis concludes that we are not only under a strange, non-physical law, but we are also fundamentally broken in our relationship to it. This inner contradiction, knowing the moral law but continually failing to adhere to it, is the evidence of what Lewis terms sin. The takeaway? The existence of the moral law, coupled with our inability to follow it perfectly, forces us to look beyond the physical universe for its explanation. Number 5, something behind the facts. We can only understand the physical world through two things: the things we observe, facts, matter, space, and time, and the things we know internally, the moral law. If the moral law exists, then there must be a source that created it. This source cannot be physical because the law itself is not physical. This source must be something like a mind or a consciousness, because only a mind can issue instructions or command an ought. It must be a power that is deeply interested in right conduct and fair play. Lewis concludes that the moral law is the strongest piece of evidence we have for a creative power behind the universe. This power is not merely the impersonal God of pantheism, who is the universe, but the personal God of theism, who is distinct from the universe and intensely concerned with morality. The takeaway? The moral law is the ultimate key. It tells us that there is a moral lawgiver and that we have offended this lawgiver. This logical conclusion sets the stage for the rest of mere Christianity, which provides the theological answer, Christianity, to the universal problem defined by the moral law. Lewis masterfully turns our everyday acts of irritation and self-justification into undeniable evidence of a transcendent moral reality. The law of human nature is our inner guide, constantly reminding us of the standard we were designed to meet. Here is your immediate actionable step from Spoken Library today. Listen to the inner voice. For the next 24 hours, pay attention every time you catch yourself making an excuse for your own selfish action, or every time you judge someone else as unfair. Recognize that inner voice of obligation as the moral law at work. By merely listening and acknowledging its existence, you begin to align yourself with this fundamental truth of human nature. Thank you for tuning in to Spoken Library. If this summary inspired you to deepen your understanding of the moral universe, please hit that subscribe button and share this episode. Until next time, listen to the whisper of the ought.